Hello and welcome to episode 2 in how to make an obby in Roblox Studio. Today we're going to be setting up the Rebirth system, and we're going to make a skip stage developer product so you can make money off of this game. And we're going to be setting up some GUI so mobile and Xbox players can more easily see what stage and amount of rebirths they have. But before we do anything else, there's a couple things I would like to change in the main framework script and the checkpoint for loop. In the touched event, I'm going to change wait character : wait for child humanoid to find first child humanoid, because there's been a couple times where in testing where this touched event has given me an infinite yield warning with the wait for child, so I'm going to change it to find first child instead, and hopefully that should fix it. And then another thing I realized is that if a character dies, and if you have break joints on death turned on so the character will fall apart, the parts of the character could go flying and could set their checkpoint value higher so they could skip a stage from dying. The way we'll patch that out is very simple. After if character and humanoid, we're going to do if humanoid : get state. This is a method, so it will have two parentheses after that, is not equal to enum.humanoid state type dot dead then, and we're just going to indent all of this code, drop a line, and type end so we can wrap all of this together. And now they will no longer be able to activate a checkpoint and skip a stage if they die. So we can close that script. And in the starter GUI, I'm going to enable the screen GUI. I have a model link in the description for this, so you don't have to make the GUI. You can change how it looks if you would like to, but I don't care if you don't. There is a frame inside of this screen GUI. It's named frames, and inside of that we have another frame called side frames, which houses the rebirth button, the skip stage button, your current stage, and your current rebirths. Those two are text labels. And we have a rebirth frame. It looks like this. Inside of it, there are two text buttons. There's the close and the confirm. And there's an info, which will tell you about it, and the title, which is this text label up here. I'm going to set this visible back to false. If you take the model link, then do not change any of this. And if you're making your own GUI, I would rename it to all of these, but you can change the names of these, but you'll have to change it accordingly in the script. I'm going to add a local script into the screen GUI, and I'm going to rename this to client framework. Then in server script service, I'm going to add two more scripts. The first one, I'm going to delete the default code. I'm going to rename this one to marketplace framework, and then I'm going to add another script, delete the default code, and rename this one to remotes framework. And we can close these two for right now. And before we do anything else, we're going to delete that default code in the local script, but we're going to go up to game settings, and we're going to go down to monetization, and you're going to scroll down if you need to. You're going to scroll down until you see developer products. We're going to create a developer product. Then we're going to edit it. I'm going to rename this to skip stage. I'm going to make it 25 Robux, and I'm going to click save. Then I'm going to go back into the game settings, back into monetization, and I'm going to click on these two dots on this developer product and click copy ID to clipboard. Now that we've finished creating the developer product, we can start editing the local script. So we're going to need quite a few variables first. We're going to need 3 services. We're going to need players, replicated storage, and marketplace service. In replicated storage, first of all, we need to add a folder, and in this folder, I'm going to rename it to main game, and then we're going to add another folder into that folder and rename it to remotes. And inside of the remotes folder, we need 4 remote events. Well, not 4 remote events, we need 4 remotes. 2 of them are remote functions, and 2 of them are remote events. So in this remotes folder, we're going to add a remote event. We're going to rename this one to Rebirth. I'm going to duplicate it with Control-D. It's Command-D on a Mac. And I'm going to rename it to Update GUI. Then I'm going to add a remote function. And this one's going to be named can rebirth. And I'm going to duplicate it with Control D, Command D on a Mac, and rename it to get data. So now in the local script, we can get the players. So local players equals game, get service, players. Then we're going to get replicated storage. So local replicated storage equals game, get service, replicated storage. Then we're going to get marketplace service. So local marketplace service equals game, get service, marketplace service. Then we're going to get the player. So local player equals players.local player. Then we're going to get the main game folder and replicated storage, and the remotes folder inside of that. So local main game equals replicated storage, wait for child. So now we're going to get the main game folder and replicated storage and the remotes folder inside of that. So we're going to get local main game equals replicated storage, wait for child main game. Now we're going to do local remotes equals main game, wait for child remotes. So now we're going to get the GUI and the frames frame inside of the GUI. So local GUI equals script.parent, since the parent of the script is the screen GUI. Then we're going to do local frames equals GUI, wait for child frames. Then we're going to get the rebirth frame and the side frames. So local rebirth frame equals frames, wait for child rebirth. Then we're going to get the side frames, like I just said. So local side frames equals frames, wait for child side frames. Then we're going to need our skip stage developer product ID, which we copied inside of the game settings earlier. So local skip stage equals, then we paste that ID. And now we're done with variables. We're going to need two functions. One is going to be to get data from the player's profile, and the other is going to be to update the GUI, so the current stage that they're on and the rebirths and the current amount of rebirths they have. So local function get data. This is very easy. This can all be done in one line. We're going to do return remotes, wait for child. We're going to do return remotes, wait for child. Get data, invoke server. This takes no parameters that we need to send. Actually, yes it does. I lied. The get data function requires one parameter, which is name. We can declare that as a string by doing string. And then through invoke server, we're going to pass name. Then we're going to write another function, which is going to be local function update GUI. This one is the one that takes no parameters. We're going to get two variables, so local current stage equals get data, and then we're going to pass a string stage. Then we're going to do local rebirths equals get data rebirths as the string. Then we're going to do side frames dot current stage dot text equals stage and then quotation mark. So outside of this string with the space after the colon, we're going to do dot current stage. What it's going to return from get data, since the stage data is a number and so is the rebirths, it's going to automatically convert it to a string, so we don't have to do toString current stage. We can just do current stage. Then we're going to do side frames dot current rebirths dot text equals the string again, rebirths. Let me spell that right. Rebirths, space, outside of the quotation mark, dot, rebirths. And that is that function complete. Now what we're going to do is side frames, wait for child, rebirth, dot activated, since it is a text button, connect, function. We don't need any parameters. We're going to do rebirth frame, dot visible, equals not rebirth frame, dot visible. Then we're going to do local can rebirth equals remotes, wait for child, can rebirth. If can rebirth, then rebirth frame dot confirm dot text equals rebirth. Rebirth frame dot confirm dot text color 3 equals color 3 dot from RGB 40, 100, 40 to make it a dark green. So we're going to do rebirth frame dot confirm dot background color 3 equals color 3 dot from RGB 100, 255, 100. Then we're going to do else. I'm going to copy all of this, and I'm going to set the text to cannot rebirth yet. I'm going to set this text color to 140, 40, 40, and I'm going to set the background color 3 to 255, 75, 75. Now we are done with that event, so I'm going to do rebirth frame, wait for child, confirm, dot activated, connect, function. I'm just going to copy this can rebirth line on line 33, and I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to do if can rebirth, then remotes, wait for child, rebirth, fire server, else return. So we're not going to do anything if they cannot rebirth. That is that event complete, so now I'm going to do rebirth frame, wait for child close, dot activated, connect, function, rebirth frame, dot visible equals false. So now we're done with that one. We're going to do side frames, wait for child, skip stage, dot activated, connect, function. We're going to do marketplace service, prompt, product, purchase, and we're going to pass the player and skip stage variable, which is our ID for the product. I just realized that I spelt service wrong in marketplace service, so I'm going to change this to marketplace service. Now I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Then next thing we're going to do is marketplace service dot prompt product purchase finished. It's a really long event name. Connect function. And this takes 3 parameters. It's going to take the user ID of the player, the product ID, and is purchased. I spelt that wrong too. So we're going to do if product ID equals skip stage and is purchased, then update GUI. So we're going to do player, wait for child, leader stats with a lowercase l, wait for child, stage, get property change signal. I'm going to use autocomplete, value, connect, update GUI. I'm going to copy this line, paste it here, change stage to rebirths. Then we're going to drop 2 more lines and do remotes, wait for child, update GUI, dot on client event, connect, update GUI. And now we are done with our local script. So now that we're done with our local script, I'm going to open the marketplace framework. This is what we're going to do next. At the top of the script, we need only players in marketplace service. So we're going to do local players equals game, get service, players. And then we're going to do local marketplace service. Make sure I'm going to spell it right this time. Get service, marketplace service. Then we need the data manager from server script service in that modules folder. So local data manager equals require script dot parent wait for child modules wait for child data manager. Now we're going to create a table. It's going to be called product functions. So we're going to do local product functions equals a table. In this table, we're going to write 2 square brackets. And I actually lost the developer ID because I copied something else. So I'm going to go back to game settings, go back to monetization, and copy the product ID again. Now in these two square brackets, you're going to paste that developer product ID equals function. This takes the player. So for every developer product that you make in this game, you're going to add another thing to this function. So I'm going to do another two square brackets. So if you have another developer product, you're going to do like whatever that developer product ID equals function player, and then you'll just create functions in this table. So in process receipt, it's much easier to run functions instead of doing all of it in process receipt. But in this function, we're going to get the player's profile. So local profile equals data manager dot profiles, open square bracket player, close square bracket. If not profile, then return end. Actually, we're not just going to do return end, we're going to do return enum dot product purchase decision dot not processed yet. Then we're going to do local number equals profile dot data dot stage, make sure I spell that right, +1. Then we're going to do if workspace dot checkpoints colon find first child to string number. Then, so what this if statement is going to do is it's going to check if there is a checkpoint higher than what they're already at. So if they're at the last stage, they can't skip another stage because another stage doesn't exist. Then in this if statement, we're going to do profile.data.stage plus equals 1. Then we're going to do player.leader_stats with a lowercase l .stage.value equals profile.data.stage. Then we're going to do player :load character, so it's going to reset their character and load them to their next checkpoint. Then we're going to return enum.product purchase decision.purchase granted. And we're going to do else return enum.product purchase decision.not processed yet. Then outside of this table, we're going to do marketplace service.process receipt. Since this is a callback to whatever local script fired this, it's going to equal function, and then the parameter is going to be the receipt. Then we're going to do local player equals players :get player by user ID receipt dot player ID. If not player, so if the player left or got disconnected for whatever reason, then return enum.product purchase decision.not processed yet end. Then we're going to return, since marketplace service is supposed to return a product purchase decision, and these functions return it to whatever called it. We're going to return product functions receipt.product ID (2 parentheses) player. So whatever this returns, process receipt is going to return back to the client. That is our marketplace framework done. We can close this script, and now we're going to open the remotes framework. At the top of this script, we only need 4 variables. We need replicated storage, the main game folder, and the remotes folder inside of that. And then we need the data manager. So local replicated storage equals game :get service replicated storage. Then we're going to do local main game equals replicated storage :wait for child main game. Local remotes equals main game, not replicated storage, I almost typed that, :wait for child remotes. Then we're going to do local data manager equals require script.parent :wait for child modules :wait for child data manager. This is going to be a fairly big script. The first thing we're going to do is remotes :wait for child rebirth .onServer event :connect function. This takes the player parameter. We're going to do if not player, then return end. So if the player left or got disconnected for whatever reason, we're just going to return and do nothing. Then we're going to do local profile equals data manager.profiles open square bracket player close square bracket. We're going to do if not profile, then return end. We're going to do some checks to make sure that the player can actually rebirth, because what you should do when using remote events is never trust what the client is saying. you always want to do sanity checks, which is something where you're checking if those values exist, and you're checking them on the server to make sure they are the correct version, because exploiters can very easily fire remote events with whatever values they want to. So an example would be a shop. If you were to use a remote function that passes their amount of coins in the local script, they can just use an executor to fire that remote event with like 10 million coins, and then they'll be able to get the tool for free. So essentially what you want to do is have the client say, "Can I?" instead of say, "I can." So what we're going to do is if profile.data and profile.data.stage equals number of workspace.checkpoints get children, then if player.character, then player add tag. If you remember in the last part, in the checkpoint for loop in the touched event, we check if the player has a tag called rebirth_processing. This tag is important because if they are rebirthing, there is no debounce in that touched event, so it will just set their checkpoint back to what they're standing on if they're standing on it. So we give them a tag and we check if that player has the tag, and if they do, we don't do anything, but we add this tag. So we add this tag, then we do profile.data.rebirths plus equals 1, profile.data.stage equals 1. We're not going to add anything to it, we're just going to set it back to 1. Player.leaderstats.rebirths.value equals profile.data.rebirths. Player.leaderstats.stage.value equals profile.data.stage. Then we're going to do player load character. So we're going to load their character and set them back to stage 1. Then we're going to do player remove tag rebirth_processing. That is that remote event finished. So now we're going to do remotes wait for child get data on server invoke equals function player name. We're going to do if not player, then return end. So if the player got disconnected or doesn't exist for whatever reason, then we're going to return nothing. Then we're going to do local profile equals data manager.profiles open square bracket player close square bracket. If not profile, then return end. We're going to do if profile.data and profile.data open square bracket name close square bracket, then return profile.data open square bracket name close square bracket. That is that remote function finished. So now we're going to do remotes wait for child can rebirth dot on server invoke equals function player. If not player, then return false end. So again, if the player doesn't exist or they get disconnected for whatever reason, we're going to return false this time, since this is expecting a boolean, even though if they disconnected it wouldn't really matter since they wouldn't even be in the game anymore. And we're going to do local profile again equals data manager.profiles open square bracket player close square bracket. If not profile, then return end. Then we're going to check if profile.data and profile.data.stage equals number of workspace.checkpoints get children, then. So we're going to check exactly like we did up here in this Rebirth remote event. We're also going to check if player.character, then return true, else return false. Then after this end in the if player.character statement, we're going to do else return false. And now we are done with the remotes framework. Everything should be working. So now if I join the game and test this out, I'm at stage 1. Since I'm using the .mock, it never saved any data. Then I'm on stage 2. I still can't rebirth. Well, there is a bug, obviously. with the Rebirth text label. I'll figure that out in a moment, but you can see clicking on it, we can't rebirth. But if I go to stage 3 and I finish, I can rebirth just fine. My rebirths go up and I get reset back to stage 1. And if I go to stage 2, I can skip a stage by using this developer product. And since we're in Studio, this is a test purchase, so it's not going to charge your account. We can click on the buy button. We get sent to stage 3, and we can rebirth again. We get sent back to stage 1, and our rebirth is now 2. I'll take a look at the bug in the local script right now, and I will cut to when I get it fixed. I've spotted the issue. The issue is we didn't invoke the server, so it's just checking if the remote actually exists. And of course it does exist, but what we want to do is :invoke server. And we didn't do this down here either in the confirm activated event, so we're going to do local can rebirth :invoke server. You want to make sure on line 33, local can rebirth equals remotes :wait for child can rebirth :invoke server. That is very important. And down on line 47, it should be the exact same thing. So now, if I playtest this, and I try to rebirth on stage 1, it says I can't rebirth yet, but I can just skip this stage. And then I'll do it again. I'll skip the stage. Now I can rebirth. I'll get sent back to stage 1. It does bug again and say that I can't rebirth. But if I open it again, then it won't, because it will change every single time we open or close this. Well, that is our full game completed. I was going to do the skip stage developer product in episode 3, but there is no longer going to be an episode 3 because I did that in this episode since I had the time to. So now you can make as many levels in your game as you want to, as many stages. I hope you have fun making your obby, and I hope you found this tutorial useful. I hope to see you in my next tutorial. Goodbye.